and greetings to all. So from the video just now, you guys would know that I will explain to you about non-tariff barriers. So actually, what is non-tariff barriers? Non-tariff barriers are a significant aspect of the international trade policies that representing restrictive measures. This means that it represents as a tool for governments to regulate the flow of goods and also services across borders in ways that address economic, social, and also political objectives. So government use non-tariff barriers to protect domestic industries from foreign competition. For example, by implementing quotas, it can limit the number of imported goods. This will provide local businesses with a competitive edge. Do you guys know that the non-tariff barriers are also used to safeguard national security? This can be seen where the implementation of restrictions on importing sensitive technologies is to uphold health safety standards and also ensuring that important products meet local regulations.
Hello everyone, today we are diving into an essential topic in international economy, which is non-tariff barrier. These are restrictions that government use to control the flow of goods and services across their border without relying on tariff. And they are important because they help protect domestic industry, shape trade pattern, and ensure standard. So let's explore the 7 major types of NTBs with example and their significance. First up, we have import quotas. These set a maximum limit on the quantity or value of certain product that can be imported over a specific time. For example, if a country wants to support its rice farmer, it might impose a quota on rice import, and by doing this, government shield local industry from excessive foreign competition and maintain market balance. Next, we have voluntary export restraint or VERS. And this occurs when an exporting country agrees to limit the quantity of its good being sold to another nation. Take the example of Japan in the 1980s. To maintain a good relations with the United States and protect the American auto industry, Japan voluntarily restricted its car export to the United States. While VERS can ease trade tension temporarily, they often distort competition and can conflict with international trade rules. Now, let's talk about domestic content requirement. This non-tariff barrier requires that a certain percentage of a product to be locally produced to be sold in their country. A great example is Malaysia automotive industry. To encourage local manufacturing, Malaysian car makers must use at least 50% locally produced part. While this policy boosts local industry and creates jobs, it can also raise production costs, making product less competitive globally. Another important non-tariff barrier is export subsidies. Government provide financial incentives to domestic producers so they can sell their goods at lower prices in the global market. For example, subsidies to rice farmers enable them to export rice competitively. However, while subsidy may benefit a country's exporter, they can distort global trade and harm manufacturers in other nations. The next one is technical, administrative, and other regulation. This requires imported goods to meet certain safety, quality, or environmental standards before they can be sold. Imagine a country insisting that imported electronics undergo rigorous safety tests. And while this regulation protects consumers, they can also act as hidden barrier, making it harder for foreign products to compete. And next, anti-dumping duties. These are extra taxes imposed on imported goods sold below their fair market value, a practice called dumping. For example, if Chinese steel is sold in Malaysia at an artificially low price, Malaysia might impose anti-dumping duties to protect its local steel industry. And while these duties help maintain fair competition, they can sometimes escalate into trade dispute. And lastly, we have international cartel. And these are agreements among producers from different countries to control prices, supply, or distribution of a certain product. The most well-known example is OPEC, which is the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Country. And by coordinating oil production, OPEC influences global oil prices. And while beneficial to its members, cartel can disrupt market and inflate prices for consumers worldwide. And there you have it, the 7 key types of non-tariff barrier and their impact on international trade.
I will be presenting about arguments for protectionism and also arguments against protectionism. But first, let's look at the arguments for protectionism. So, arguments for protectionism are arguments that support trade restrictions implemented to protect economic activities in a country. With that, I will be sharing the arguments that clarifies the reason why protectionism should be done. So first one, we have infant industry. Infant industries are new business that are not yet strong enough to compete with large experienced foreign companies. So protectionism is like imposing tariff on imported goods, have these new firms grow by giving them a chance to compete locally. For example, a tariff on imported electric cars makes them more expensive. So it encouraging the consumers to buy a local cars. So this supports allow infant industries to develop their skills and becoming competitive in the global market over time. And the last one is the current account deficit. So a current account deficit is when a country imports more goods and services than it exports, which means the country is spending more than it earns. So by implementing protectionism in terms of subsidy assistance, local producer can increase their production inputs and lower its product prices. So this encourages people to buy more domestic product over imported options. So which it also reducing the outflow of money to other countries. And then when the current account deficit shrinks, it reduces the needs for foreign currency and also helping to stabilize the local currency value. Let's move on to the next part, which arguments against protectionism. So for everyone's information, implementing domestic protection can be benefit for both locals, producers, as well as the country itself. So however, establishing protection might have negative impact on variety of stakeholders. So let's take a look on the first one. So we have reduced choice. So the implementation of protectionism on imported goods limits the quantity and also the variety of the goods and services that might be used for the consumers. And the restrictions such as quotas have reduced the access of imported goods to the local consumers and caused consumers to have fewer choices in the use of goods and also the products. And when the import goods are limited, consumer needs to buy only goods available from the local producer that may not meet their preferences and also meets their needs. Next, the disadvantages of the protectionism is an increase in price. So protectionism makes imported goods more expensive because of the tariffs added, right? So this leads to customers to prefer buying a locally made product since they are more cheaper. So as the demands for local goods increase, local producers might raise their prices a little bit. So as a result, this happens because there is a less competition from the foreign products, and local producers know customers have fewer options, so they take this opportunity to increase the price because consumers will still buy their products because of the imported products are more expensive than the local products.
Let's continue on WTO. When we know about this non-tariff barrier, it will definitely be a problem in controlling the enforced rules. Therefore, the existence of the World Trade Organization that we call WTO is very important in creating a more organized and fair international trading system. So what is WTO? WTO is a global organization that regulates trade between countries that cover goods, service, agriculture, and intellectual property. Its main goal is to reduce barriers to free trade and provide platform for countries to negotiate and resolve dispute. Through the dispute settlement body, which called DSP, countries can file complaints when trade rules are violated. Issue that happened regarding WTO in our country, which is Malaysia, that European Union restriction on palm oil, which Malaysia argues as discriminatory and violate free trade principle. As the world's second largest palm oil producer, Malaysia has taken this case to the WTO and continues to defend its interests. To defend their position, Malaysia has adopted Doha Development Agenda that called DDA, which ensure collaboration among government agency and stakeholder on trade issue. Let's continue on our case study.
Today, I will provide an overview of Malaysia's use of non-tariff barrier to regulate international trade, protect domestic industry, and ensure safety and quality standards. The first one is import quotas. Malaysia applies import license and quota, particularly for food and agricultural products. For example, rice imports are tightly controlled to protect local farmers to ensure food security. The next one is technical barrier to trade. Standard and certificate requirements exist for products such as electrical appliances, machinery, and medical devices, and this protect consumer but can complicate market entry for foreign company. The next one is domestic content requirement. Industry like the automotive sector must source a certain percentage of input locally. This boosts the local economy but may lead to higher production costs and reduce global competitiveness.
Okay, so now we proceed to the challenges faced by Malaysian exporters with their global partners. So Malaysian exporters encounter a significant hurdles when navigating non-tariff measures imposed by their global trade partners, particularly in major markets such as the United States, the European Union, and also Japan. So these measures are often justified as mechanism to protect their consumer safety, environmental standards, or also fair competition, which they impose significant compliance burdens on exporters, particularly in small and also medium enterprise in Malaysia. So the primary challenge lies in the high costs associated with meeting these regulatory requirements. For example, firms exporting agricultural products or manufactured goods to developed markets often need to invest heavily in their infrastructure and also upgrades. This can be proven where smaller and also resource-based firms in Malaysia often struggles to bear these costs, leading some of them to exit this market entirely.
For the next challenging, non-tariff barrier that evolved also has created access challenge to high demand market. For example, we can see European Union now requires palm oil export to meet tough sustainability standard. These rules have increased costs for business and make it harder for industry like palm oil and rubber to sell in key market. As we know this issue that I have explained on WTO, Malaysia business and government need to work together to help companies prepare better, share information about global rules, and build stronger partnership. Malaysia uses global platform like WTO to fight for fair treatment of our product. Barrier in economy Malaysia also give the effect to market access challenge. One rules of non-tariff barrier are safety or quality standard. If Malaysia don't meet these rules of their product, they can be rejected, delayed, or face extra costs like tariff. This make it harder for exporter to sell their goods in important market, which can slow down the economy of Malaysia. Lastly, we have reactive response. Many companies, especially smaller companies, don't prepare early for these rules. They only act after these rules are enforced. This will cost them more money and increase the chance their product rejected. This approach makes it harder for them to compete globally.
In conclusion, I will summarize what my friend just explained just now. So the role and impact of the non-tariff barriers in international trade. Non-tariff barriers represent a double-edged sword in the international trade itself, offering both opportunities and also challenges. On one hand, non-tariff barriers serve as a vital tool for protecting domestic industries. On the other hand, non-tariff barriers can impose significant burdens on exporters, particularly in highly regulated global markets like the European Union, the United States, and also Japan. So for Malaysia, striking the right balance in the use of non-tariff barriers is very essential. That is why policy makers must ensure that the non-tariff barriers align with global trade rules, fostering trust and also cooperation with the international partners. This can be seen where initiatives such as improved information dissemination and also collaboration with industrial stakeholders or even participation in international forums like the World Trade Organization are very essential because they can empower exporters to turn non-tariff measures into opportunities for market growth rather than obstacles. By fostering innovation, resilience, and also compliance among its exporters, Malaysia can navigate the evolving landscape of global trade and also secure its position in their competitive markets.